Even with the enormous progress made in the last few decades, many women still encounter particular obstacles in their quest to become prosperous corporate executives. This course will teach you how to identify biases and obstacles that may stand in the way of women's success and how to take proactive measures to increase those obstacles' likelihood of being overcome. Along with learning how to develop a leadership identity, you'll also learn how to negotiate successfully and get constructive criticism. Along with learning the value of having a sponsor to advance your career and how to do so before we start, you'll also get to think back on your own experiences and identify any barriers that women face in leadership roles. Prospects, have you observed or had any experiences?
Oh, I'm not sure if you've heard, but Alan has stated that he will be retiring at the end of this month.
This implies that Brian's unit will have a vacancy for an associate vice president.
That was mentioned in a meeting this morning.
You might be that someone.
Me.
I never thought of it.
Even consider?
That part you ought to play.
All right, I suppose I will. Do you believe I'm prepared?
Ashley should think about applying for it, I say.
Ashley, I really think that's a great idea.
By what do you mean?
She's doing okay, where she is. She just doesn't seem like such a good fit to me.
The role of the AVP and why?
I suppose it just seems premature. She's still learning a lot.
That isn't particularly helpful. Could you elaborate more?
As I mentioned earlier, she's still learning in her current position. She lacks the necessary gravitas to be at that level.
I believe she has a lot of potential for the AP position, and if she decides to pursue it, I will support her. We need more female members of the leadership group.
Despite significant advancements in the business sector toward greater gender equality, women remain underrepresented in positions of leadership. According to a McKinsey & Company study of 60 large companies, women make up 27% of vice president positions, but 53% of entry-level workers, and just 19% of executives at the C-level. The pipeline narrows at these points of promotion. It can be challenging to advance. There are still misconceptions about women in leadership roles, and women face unique challenges that may not even be recognized by men and women.
However, I felt that there was a great gender balance in our leadership team.
Are you suggesting that things are tough for you and Joan?
Not quite, but biases are something we all have. Both men and women can be challenging for us to overcome. The fact that many people are still unaccustomed to seeing women in leadership roles can have an impact on how we view those who already do.
You are discussing stereotypes.
To start with,
Yes.
recall your initial impression of me, or even the rumors you had heard about me before we met. I am well aware of the remarks made by Iron Lady.
No, everything is fine. I know the Iron Lady or worse. Cold and pushy, and there may be some truth to some of that. However, it is. Furthermore, how society views women, leaders insofar as they are such.
I believe part of the reason are those attributes that we typically identify with women.
Are not the same as things like compassion and caring. The attributes that we naturally possess connect with the role of a leader. These are traits that are typically associated with men, such as being decisive or even dominant.
In order to lead well, you must embody each of those qualities.
I like to think of myself as a fairly sympathetic man. I believe you are as well.
However, no one believes that because you are. Unlike people, when you're compassionate, you're not also decisive.
Consider a female leader to be kind. Then they could conclude she's also a pushover. Not you, Joan.
Women do face bias influences and must learn how to negotiate these issues. How many women are viewed, and how frequently do women view themselves? Features similar to kindness and dominance are categorized as either male or female in culture. The fact is that effective leaders must adopt these kinds of behaviors. Studies indicate that women who behave in that way may occasionally become targets of stereotypes. They risk being perceived as being overly stern or uncaring if they adopt leadership styles that are typically associated with men. However, if they veer too far in the opposite direction, they may be perceived as kind but ineffective. We refer to that as the double bind, when people perceive female leaders as either likable or competent. They were pleasant, but occasionally, even when used alone, ineffectual. Ashley and I shared the position of head of operations during my first real leadership role experience. My first thought was, you should always try to get along. More than being perceived as ineffectual, I was afraid that if I threw my weight around, people would not like me. If I was going to finish the job, I had to learn to get over my own prejudices. In addition to being friendly, I had to be assertive. Studies reveal that there are two distinct types of sexism that lead to the double bind. Women are subjected to benevolent sexism in a good way if they take on conventional roles for women, similar to a compassionate HR representative. Women who rise to positions of top leadership and leave behind traditional roles are targets of hostile sexism that is supportive and self-effacing. This can, for instance, be seen negatively. These mindsets are frequently unconscious, so the first step in removing them is realizing they exist. It's very simple to not give these things much thought. You hear rumors that certain managers are inept or bossy. You also don't give the gender of the person a second thought. You simply accept things as they are. Said without considering the motivation behind it. I guess I've said something along those lines myself. Issue.
Gary, don't worry.
About myself and other women too, I have. It also unfolds structurally, which
strengthens it.
What do you mean?
Are there even more men in leadership positions here?
This implies that there will be fewer female leaders to draw inspiration from for both men and women.
Additionally, lacking in role models.
Women find it difficult to picture themselves working in that corner office.
The structural barrier that women face stems from the fact that men are more likely to hold leadership positions and have more role models in general.
And easier access to coaching as well.
Women with connections may find it difficult to enter unofficial networks where help and support are readily available. For that monthly round of golf, it could be difficult for people to envision a female co-worker joining. Or more crucially, that it has always been for guys only. It's important to understand why it matters that she is not being invited.
It's not deliberate. It is often the case that this is the way that things have always been done. People tend to forget that when conditions change and there are only men at the top, we need to reconsider how things are done. They do not always consider
laws that could facilitate women's lives,
since they are not directly affected by the issues.
Which policies, such as adaptable plans, time off for parents? Those things are obviously not always feasible in every job, but it's wise to at least take into account the fact that they can be very beneficial for women.
Since they are still frequently the primary family members and caregivers.
These laws can benefit men as well. When my daughter was born, I would have loved to take time off. However, it was simply not feasible or even thought of.
You're accurate. Many things that are beneficial to women are also beneficial to men.
Workplace norms and regulations can influence how people view women.
If a woman can't stay late after business hours without warning because she has to feed the kids at home, she must leave. She might come across as unfocused. And even though she gives it her all in the office, she's not a candidate for leadership, as well as jobs classified as feminine.
Team building support, that sort of thing, can be seen as less important in... Ashley has created a fantastic team.
She has made a significant contribution.
From the moment she assumed control of operations to our success.
She may be ready for an associate vice president position, even though I would hate to lose her.
Workplace bias can have negative consequences for both individuals and your company. For example, stereotypes make it difficult to see the true facts in front of you. For instance, a 2017 study released by the Academy of Management had men and women offered precisely the same recommendations for bringing about change. Due to gender bias, only men were seen as displaying leadership in an organization.
This kind of bias is best addressed when it is unconscious.
Our goal is to see more women in positions of leadership.
I wanted to discuss the structural issues you brought up earlier with you before I really arrive. If there are any actions that our organization could take to support women become a successful leader, help is what I want to do. It's not this.
Supporting women in leadership requires addressing deep-rooted structural issues. Let's explore how organizations can take meaningful actions.
One of the most crucial things we can all do to support women in assuming leadership roles is to create a positive atmosphere. And mindsets like yours are precisely what will enable us to achieve this. The act of conversing is a great place to start. The same things speeds.
Creating a positive atmosphere is essential for fostering leadership. Conversations and supportive mindsets play a key role in this process.
Additionally, talking to others about it could be a smart way to expand on it. Every management group.
Expanding the conversation about leadership and bias is crucial. Engaging every management group can lead to broader awareness and change.
How about instruction? Should we take action to assist people on behalf of all employees? Be where prejudice may be influencing decisions.
Training and awareness are vital. Taking action to educate and support all employees can help mitigate prejudice in decision-making. We also need to think about the kind of roles played by women in the organization. Similar to how many? Men. Actions. Not only do they have that, but we do too. What more can we do to assist in getting more and more women ready for those leadership positions? It is imperative that we investigate whether women's career advancement pathways diverge from those of men. And if it's a drawback, what steps can we take to remedy it? To assist women in becoming fulfilled leaders, the crucial part is next. The environment must guarantee that women's contributions are appreciated and acknowledged, while also helping them to develop the drive to take on leadership roles. Addressing bias is the first step in ensuring that happens, and the best way to do that is to teach everyone about gender bias and how to spot it in others as well as in themselves. This will help to create an environment where it is acceptable to talk openly about gender prejudice. Regards. It is crucial to ensure that there is a healthy gender balance within the organization, especially in top management teams, not only at the top, but also in positions that facilitate men's and women's ascents to leadership positions, enabling you to assist your company in redressing any disparities in leadership expert permit. Yes, Navarra outlines a procedure that can assist in addressing. That is the circumstances. For them, it's about who wins. The mission, the hot assignments, the crucial roles, crucial positions and typical outcomes prior to relocating upstairs. A company by the time you arrive. Metal floor. There are women out there in terms of statistics, swiftly. In backroom roles, staff roles are disproportionately found, and those are not the roles that lead to the top. What's going on there now? Okay. Nowadays, the majority of organizations are only getting started. Consider that they actually are. Tracking what are the is necessary. Yes, indeed, what's not right? Not at all. How many women do that exactly? We have, however, at this and that level. Why? For a duration of 6 minutes. Settings, systems that do. One direction has more male members than female members. The other, but it's crucial to realize that everything is connected. Begins with those roles that are essential to the mission. Groundskeeping for the senior manager. The majority of businesses would gain from closely examining their gender distribution and considering potential policy and practice changes to promote diversity. Recognizing these outdated regulations and, for instance, everyone benefits from encouraging work-life balance as much as possible. When it's possible, exercise flexibility and ensure that staff members are at ease using any available flexible options. People who use our telecommuting options must have the assurance that they won't be penalized or overlooked. Talking about it with the other managers is worthwhile. Caliber of the job that was done. Individuals deliver instead of how many hours they work. As unit leaders, we have some discretion to ease people's lives for every team. Thus, we ought to make use of it. Additionally, we need to guarantee that women have a way to provide feedback and receive assistance for their personal growth. Verifying that they participate in coaching programs, for example. Merely planning peer discussion groups and paying attention to their participation is crucial. Both official and informal networks for exchanging insights and seeking guidance play a significant role in fostering a supportive environment. According to research, giving women safe spaces to discuss development and feedback can help them advance as leaders. It is imperative to provide mentorship and sponsorship programs to enable women to avail themselves of the guidance and encouragement of other accomplished individuals. It benefits more than just the individuals involved when there is parity between men and women when it comes to advancement into leadership roles. It's also essential to assisting your company in optimizing the utilization of all of its resources. It's one thing, and we're all affected by this, is to raise one's awareness of bias. And when you realize that something is biased, I mean both yourself and other people, then countering it is simpler. What do you mean? Well, occasionally when a woman discusses her personal achievements, she might come off as aggressive. Let's say that about yourself that someone told you. How do you think? I would constantly feel awkward talking about myself. It sounds like I'm boasting. I'd probably take a step back, or a great deal. Indeed, and if you keep your accomplishments to yourself, it's possible that you won't be given credit for them. Nevertheless, you can stop putting limitations on yourself and ensure that you are given credit for your work once you realize that it's just bias speaking. To combat bias and its effects, it's critical to acknowledge them and take appropriate action. One way to do that would be to nominate yourself for leadership positions. In order to be a successful leader, you should negotiate for work arrangements that meet your needs as well as the performance standards. You should also identify resources for assistance when needed. Pay attention to your purpose as a leader, the goals you have for yourself as a leader, not how you are viewed. To make wise business decisions and get over any fears or insecurities that might be stopping you, put substance above perceptions. Exhibit self-assurance while making choices and acting in the organization's best interests. Every leader must project an authoritative presence and be able to fill a room with their leadership style. You should consider furthering your personal goals. Consider it from the perspective of the organization. You require a more expansive goal. What personal objectives do you have, and how do they relate to the company's objectives? You are very valuable. Also, you could accomplish a lot in a position with greater accountability, not only for you but also for the company. You must push yourself to consider and obtain what is feasible beyond your comfort zone. Not only can it benefit you personally, but it can also benefit the entire organization. Ashley and Malcolm's arrival at his workplace a secret. Speaking of Malcolm, having a strong leadership presence is something else that will help you feel like a leader and help others see you as one. Qualities of presence and leadership. Notice how they're gender neutral. Therefore, emulate Malcolm more. Stay true to Ashley and yourself, but make progress. Growing Ashley's leadership skills. You must value every aspect of who you are. One of the most amazing lessons she imparted to me was the importance of embracing one's femininity. And be sincere. Recognize your strengths and work to enhance them. Consider Joan as an example. Knowing your strengths is a good place to start, but you also need to make sure that others are aware of them. Perhaps it's partially my fault, but I believe you should be a little less shy about establishing yourself in the organization.
I guess I've just always assumed that if my work is good, people will become aware eventually.
And so begins Michelle's journey, a professional striving for recognition in her career.
Michelle, you've been noticed, but it's a mistake to think that outside of your unit, your work will speak for itself. It needs to be networked around and promoted.
The advisor's words hit home, reminding Michelle that visibility is key in any career.
If you'd like, I can help you brainstorm tactics for that.
That would be wonderful. I'm grateful.
With the advisor's guidance, Michelle begins to see a clearer path forward.
All right, let's discuss the Associate Vice President position.
You will have to.
Since Brian will be handling the hiring, discuss it with him. Do you think you can pull that off?
The challenge is set, and Michelle must now rise to meet it, with Brian's decision looming ahead.
Since I've never been good at negotiating, any guidance you could offer would be greatly appreciated.
You're fortunate then. Isn't Gary the expert?
I completed both of my share, both engaging in and receiving negotiations. How do I put it? I seem to possess the talent. Excellent chances don't just fall into your lap. Find them, then make the necessary concessions.
Sometimes women are afraid of looking like they are putting themselves forward, so they don't negotiate to the best of their abilities.
Or perhaps it's because they concentrate more on the experience they don't have than the experience they do. People of any gender can effectively and efficiently negotiate by using the same techniques. First, recognize yourself. Desire. Determine the opportunity that interests you. Therefore, be very clear about what you want and why you want it with yourself before approaching anyone else. You would be surprised at how many negotiations fall through during the preparatory phase before any parties speak to one another simply because one side hasn't done their research on the goals they have in mind.
My goal is to advance within the company.
That's what you're saying?
More like that, but more concrete. The opportunity to oversee a larger group of direct reports and manage a P&L for the first time in my career are the reasons I want the Associate Vice President position.
Do you notice the distinction?
I understand what you're saying. I was speaking too broadly.
All right, excellent. That's what you desire then. However, negotiation is a two-way street. Both parties must emerge from the process with what they require. Thus, you also need to consider Brian's needs.
Determine your strengths and consider how your achievements relate to the values of your employer. Talk in detail and with specificity about your achievements and consider how you can demonstrate your worth in a way that your supervisor will find compelling. Lisa had talked to me about enlisting my assistance when she was a member of my team. Go after a new career chance. What she does now for the Jones team, acting as the interim director of market research. I believe I've demonstrated my ability to lead on my own. Progress projects and innovate, as demonstrated by the new data mining program I presented. You are aware of that. There has been a void in the special projects role, and if someone could expand on that role, that would benefit all of us. It's a crucial location for launching concepts that will assist in the creation of new products and maintain a robust pipeline of future sales. You constantly emphasize that we should not be considering the next big thing or the current product. However, what follows that? She demonstrated to me how helping her would benefit the entire company. Not only for her, I also appreciate that she was honest about her flaws, her comparative inexperience. Yes, I have only been filling in for the last 6 months, However, I'm ready and willing to gain knowledge, and I believe I'm prepared to move forward. Additionally, you must be prepared for rejection, including hearing no. Consider the reasons your supervisor might turn down your request and come up with a few options for your boss to consider. They may deem appropriate. About setting the scene with your boss, Lisa is aware. I enjoy people for who they are. Make sure you're ready for her. Entered. Equipped with information regarding a recent accomplishment and on the job specifications and the times I didn't seem receptive to her suggestion. She offered more data-driven recommendations. You have a lot of qualifications for the job. I'm not sure I'm ready to let you go just yet, but that's not denying it. Here, you're really contributing. All right, I get it. However, I also feel compelled to change course in order to maintain the advancement of my career. Is there any way for me to assume more responsibility in this area? Or perhaps you? Take action. Well said. A good time to lose someone never comes around. Exists? Selfish and for the benefit of the group I supported at the time. She's been a fantastic addition to your team since the move, has she not? She has, in fact. And take note of how Lisa facilitated a cooperative negotiation. She and Gary were both collaborating on the problem, not to compete with it. You can use bodily expressions to convey that message. As with what then? Look at how you're sitting, you say. You're telling me this now. This place doesn't feel right to me. I'm anxious. That calls into question the message of assurance you wish to convey. Have you heard the saying, fake it until you make it before? That is the case if you be assured in your actions. Both you and other people will sense your confidence. Be upbeat and present negotiation as a team endeavor. To convey happiness and to stay completely involved in the negotiation with your partner, use your tone and body language. The next step in the process is to make your case in a logical, factual, and persuasive manner. Talking to those further up the chain is relevant at this point. Going back to earlier, Gary, when I first suggested Ashley apply for the Associate VP position, you recall how quickly you brushed it off? She's doing okay, really. The location of her. She just doesn't seem like such a good fit for the position of AVP. It seems like she's still there, isn't she? I'm learning a lot, but it seems early. I apologize for that. I hadn't given it much thought until now. Bias without being conscious of it, you are aware. There, we kind of put you on the spot. However, that was not my intention. I wanted to talk about the particular criticism you made of it when you rejected it, or more accurately, the vague criticism. You probably already know this, though. I would also like to flag it for Ashley. Being able to pinpoint the issues with the feedback you receive is beneficial. In addition to the criticism you offer, Gary, recall your debut performance? Review with Lisa. I can recall a few rather detrimental remarks made when I was first starting out with this. I recall our first review together with Lisa. I believe the entire conversation was me telling her to think more strategically because she was acting too tactically. That concluded things. Quite literally, yes. How did she respond to it? Superior to what I accomplished. In business, feedback is crucial. It aids in performance improvement. It provides feedback on your strengths so that you can improve and, you can expand upon it. And it opens opportunities for development. But recent research demonstrates the lower likelihood of specific feedback for women. That has to do with how business works. They are more likely to get ambiguous comments that might not be helpful enough. Advice on what precisely they should be improving on and what they're doing well, which implies they pass up chances to progress and perform better. Unhelpful criticism is ambiguous, non-actionable, and emphasizes style over substance, usually critical and lacking in any positive aspect, giving you little control over how things turn out. On the other hand, constructive criticism is actionable. It's constructive and lays out your room for improvement, which can help you seize new chances. Frankly, she's with that tactical comment. Excellent in execution, which is crucial, whatever it was, that is. It's evident that Lisa wasn't particularly helped by your initial criticism. Such ambiguous and superficial feedback prevents them from addressing the true problems that could be impairing their performance. And if you fail to acknowledge both their successes and shortcomings, then you will fail to notice them. It's time for review. Yes, exactly. Additionally, thus, it lessens their prospects of progressing. However, what would you do if you were the one getting that kind of criticism? There are a few things you can do to assist yourself in making changes when you receive unhelpful feedback. Have a discussion and obtain the kind of feedback that will help you perform better. Queries, as well as obtain more specific illustrations. You may inquire, what relevance does the feedback have to the work I do? Or could you give it to me? Give concrete instances of what you mean. You might also inquire as to who deals with these kinds of situations and how I can get better. Well, in case you need to push back, here's an example of how to do better. Be not afraid. Make an effort to relate the comments to your business outcomes. Describe the motivations and objectives behind your actions. You can ask if you're receiving feedback that isn't helpful. Could you please provide me with an illustration of what you mean by strategic? What specific actions can I do to get better? I'm trying to say that you should consider the outside world more, not simply the rivals within the company. Regards. Future changes in the ways that suppliers and customers conduct business could have an impact on our company. You focus a little too much on yourself. You do a good job of concentrating on the current internal tasks, but because of shifts in our external context, you have to be ready for what's ahead. I'm grateful, that's useful. You've also said that I take myself too seriously. I believe that for me, projecting authority is crucial for the purpose of being considered carefully by my group. We got along pretty well, I think. However, if you believe otherwise, operate. I'm curious to know, I believe there may be times when you're making an effort as well. Hard. You're doing a great job, so I don't want to discourage you. However, I also believe that you ought to unwind. Slowly allow your influence to increase more through modeling than by imposing. I believe I understand. Could you give me an instance of a time when you believed I was overly ambitious? That was last week, actually, when you were in charge of the meeting to check in. Could you see how you could make that kind of interaction more beneficial? I understand what you're saying. It's never easy to hear negative feedback, but it's even more difficult if it's vague and there's nothing you can do about it. However, if that does happen to you, resist the urge to start doubting yourself. You are aware of your past actions and your potential. Verify that the person you are speaking with is aware of it. For the most part, the individual. The person you're speaking with genuinely cares about you and is taking the time to offer you feedback, which, while showing compassion, is not always accurate. It's always about who you know rather than what you know. Business relationships within your network are important. People with strong workplace networks are often seen as more influential. You learn about new opportunities and receive the assistance and information you need to take advantage of them. Make contact with them. Your peers, coworkers, managers, and boss are all possible members of your network. Direct correspondence. Individuals. You've established a connection. To make the most out of the valuable individuals in your network, connect with them through professional associations or other external organizations. I believe you have an excellent chance to become Assistant Vice President, whether you understand it or not, but only if you approach it correctly. It would be wise for you to look for a sponsor, a mentor-like sponsor. Someone who gives you advice, direction, and counsel to help you navigate your career is, well, not quite a mentor. But sponsors also offer guidance. They go beyond that. They both advise and take action. They lobby for you by using their power. They assist you in advancing your profession. A portion of your glory is reflected when you succeed. Move on to them. It's beneficial to both parties. Sounds fantastic. So, how can I go about making such a connection? Seeking a mentor is a more straightforward process than seeking a sponsor. Furthermore, you can't just assume that a mentor will instantly turn into a sponsor. They observe your capabilities. You must conduct deliberate searches. Examine your organization's surroundings to determine who is where you desire to be, who can assist you in reaching your objectives. The ideal sponsors are positioned higher up the corporate ladder than you are, and in a smaller company, perhaps even the CEO or another member of that inner circle. Once you've located senior leaders who you think could be of assistance, initiate contact and build a rapport. Don't expect great things and then show off your skills. Building trust is essential to relationships. Should someone choose to support you with their reputational capital, they must know that you will not disappoint them. Do you participate in any business, social, or professional networks at work? Not really, that's not. Joining groups or networks that include influential people is a smart idea. You should look beyond your close friends and colleagues as well as your peers. Managers, you're searching for someone who can actually make a difference in your career. Additionally, you must make yourself noticeable to senior leaders. Simply showing up is not sufficient. So you sign up for a nonprofit organization in our area of expertise. Participate. Take on tasks, participate in meetings, and establish relationships. After you've completed those relationships, stay in touch with them, remain aware of them, request comments and guidance. They will be, if they observe that you're handling it well, more likely to champion on your behalf.
Gary, that would be fantastic. Fantastic. I'll speak with Brian regarding the available position first. I've learned today that you're prepared and most likely the best candidate for the position. So let me try to see if I can make things a little easier for you. Naturally, you'll also have to convince Brian of your worth. However, my recommendation ought to help you get started. The entrance, is that acceptable? Regards, Gary.
According to a recent survey, only 16% of female professionals have access to formal sponsorship or mentorship. For women in particular, building relationships with sponsors and mentors is crucial, considering the leadership and gender gap that exists today. Women often underestimate the value of networking and sponsorship in the workplace. However, by offering, good sponsors can invigorate anyone's career, gaining entry to vital networks, highlighting accomplishments to upper management, and receiving suggestions for important tasks.
Everyone finds it challenging to negotiate the path to leadership, but women encounter certain obstacles unique to their gender during this process. They don't have to work alone, though. With the correct sponsors to aid in overcoming any barriers they may come across, the path turns into considerably less rocky. Right here.
To support the development of women leaders, let's go over what you have learned in this course. People must be made aware of gender biases, career pathways, leadership and support, life at work. In order to find their leadership purpose, developing leaders need to establish a leadership identity, and developing the leadership presence they need to engage in negotiations by stating their goals and their capabilities. They need to ask clarifying questions, be prepared for pushback, and remain upbeat. Obtain insightful feedback and make connections with it to the outcomes of business. At last, they are encouraged to seek out sponsors who show initiative and merit the opportunity to receive sponsorship.